Hey, thank you all. Super excited to talk about research regarding fathers and daughters. My name is Jeff Shears, director of the Moynihan Institute for Fatherhood Research and Policy, and also a professor who has been studying fatherhood and fathers' influence on children's development probably over the last 20 years. And so I think one thing that's kind of lost out of the narrative on the importance of fathers is how important fathers are to daughters. And so I'm a daughter. I got 3 girls, and so the research clearly shows that fathers have unique contributions to children's development, particularly in regards to daughters. So much of what we do as dads influence our daughters' self-esteem and self-concept. And although the influence is really directly with a lot of time with fathers and sons, daughters experience our fathering differently, both directly, right? In that, again, we really influence their self-esteem. And as you can clearly see that most women who pursue science and engineering and things of that nature generally have an involved father in their life. When the system is telling them that they are not able to pursue those things, they have a dad who is instilling in them their ability to do so. But I think indirectly it's important that men know that how you treat their mother, young ladies internalize that, right? And so I think we have to be really mindful and intentional as dads to make sure that we're interacting and treating their mom in an inappropriate way, right? You know, I often joke that sometimes we scratch our heads when our daughter begins to date or bring that first romantic relationship home. We're like, where did she find him? I often tell guys, like, maybe she look in the mirror, something about him that her romantic relationship or her boyfriend that reminds her of her dad, good or bad. And so other issue that I think is super important as we think about fathers and generational impact. Our fathering has generational impact that it doesn't just affect our children, but it affects our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren. And one of the things that research clearly shows is when a young lady has a loving relationship with her father, her husband reports higher marital satisfaction. Let that marinate a little bit, because I know it's a lot to take in. But when a lady reports, or a young lady reports that she had a loving, emotional, attached relationship with her father, her husband reports that he has marital satisfaction. So there again, it goes to how important fathering is and the generational impact that we have. And so, I encourage men to continue to be mindful of how important your interaction, your fathering is to your daughters. Again, because it has a generational impact. And again, I think what's lost in so much of the new emerging fathering literature is the focus on fathers and sons, which is important. So certainly don't negate that. But I think we need to also be super mindful of how important our fathering is to our daughters. So one of the ways as a dad of daughters that I have learned, kind of personal experiences and from research, is as a father, we need to learn how to listen and be in the moment with our daughters. As men, I think a lot of times we want to solve the issue as soon as we hear what the issue is. We go into problem solving mode. And one thing I've learned in having a house full of women, I got a male dog, but a wife and 3 girls, is that sometimes you just need to listen and affirm what they're feeling, affirm their emotions, and just be in the moment with them. And that takes, for me, even though I've studied fathering, that really took some training and kind of forethought and really being mindful of where my mind was going in my conversations with my daughters. The second thing I would want daughters to know, or daughters of dads to know, I should say, is it's okay to check. It's okay to check with your daughters about how you're doing as a dad. And so one of the things that I've done over the years is do a checkup and just say, hey, how am I doing? Every month, every couple of months, and have a real intentional conversations, even when my daughters were young. How am I doing as a dad? And once you get over your grade, this, that, and the other, you really start to dig in. You really begin to understand maybe what their needs are and how you are perceived as a father, because that's super important. To be emotionally vulnerable enough to actually act like, that you care, not act, but vulnerable enough to care, that like, how am I doing as a dad? Another thing of being this big bravado masculine man is to learn how to say I'm sorry and mean it. And, and as we think about how Christ has forgiven us, right, we need to ask for forgiveness and say we're sorry. And that was something that I never heard growing up, and something that I never really articulated a lot until I kind of realized that's super important. And, and when your daughters express how you're doing as a dad, I had my 8-year-old one time tell me, Dad, you're always on the phone, when I asked her. And so I corrected behavior. I never came in the house on the phone anymore. When I picked her up from school, I made sure I got off a call. And the one thing that I realized after that, we would ride together and just quiet, and she wouldn't say anything, I wouldn't say anything. And every now and then, as an 8-year-old, she would say, Dad, you ever thought of so-and-so, so-and-so? And when I would respond, and we would ride and just be quiet again, I was thinking, man, I could be on the phone talking or whatever, or handling business. But it dawned on me after a time that there were things that my daughter wanted to share, her thoughts, her heart, as an 8-year-old, that she didn't feel like she could share with me because it was a perception that I was too busy. And so I just encourage you to be very, very intentional in your fathering of your daughters, because they need you and you are valued as a father. Thank you.